Next on Currents News, Pope Francis is getting ready for another big mission overseas. He's going to Thailand and Japan, and the trip will fulfill a lifelong dream. Right now, the Bahamas is bracing for another furious storm, this one bringing a lot of rain and high winds to the same areas hit by Hurricane Durian. The holy city of Jerusalem could soon undergo a big change. Israel is planning to build a cable car to the most sacred site in the Jewish world, plus a newborn child's remarkable link to September 11th. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. The Pope is going to Asia, a so-called dream come true for Francis. The journey, first reported on Currents News earlier this week, is now official. Melissa Butts reports from the Vatican with the latest on the Holy Father's mission.
Pope Francis better pack his bags because come November he'll be off on another international apostolic trip. This time he'll be going to Thailand and Japan to mark his 7th international trip of 2019. Just a couple days after Pope Francis returned from Africa, the Holy See press office confirmed an upcoming papal trip to East Asia from November 19th to the 26th. Pope Francis will spend 3 days in Thailand commemorating the 350th anniversary of the Vatican's mission to Siam in 1669. His motto for the country is Christ's disciples, missionary disciples. Afterward, he'll be traveling to 3 Japanese cities, Tokyo, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. The theme for this trip is Protect All Life. It's been the Pope's dream to go to Japan since he was young and wanted to become a missionary in the country. However, sickness blocked him from leaving. Pope Francis had hinted at the trip last year when he met this group from Japan.
Approfittando di questa visita, io vorrei annunciarvi la mia volontà di visitare il Giappone l'anno prossimo. Speriamo poter farlo.
As he had asked many times, he'll likely call for peace, justice, and nuclear disarmament within the country.
Le armi di distruzione di massa, in particolare quelle atomiche, altro non generano che un ingannevole senso di sicurezza e non possono costituire la base della pacifica convivenza fra i membri della famiglia umana.
As of 2018, there are 379,975 Catholics in Thailand, a figure that represents 0.46% of the total population of 69 million. Japan has similar numbers, with just under 0.5% of its population being Catholic, around 500,000 people. It will be the Pope's 4th trip to Asia, and he'll be the 2nd Pope ever to visit these countries, after John Paul II, who visited Japan in 1981 and Thailand in 1984. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Tokyo's archbishop is eagerly awaiting the Holy Father's arrival. In an exclusive interview with the tablet before the Pope's trip was confirmed, Archbishop Tarushitu Isao Kikuchi recalled that the Holy Father has long wanted to come to the country. The Archbishop also said the small Catholic population in his nation has to work on spreading the faith.
We have to be brave enough to go out to proclaim the good news, even though the situation is not easy. We don't have to just stand up and say, oh, Jesus is alive or something like that. God is there. But what we have to do is not to just to proclaim, but to show our witness through our words and through our deeds.
The entire interview with Archbishop Kikuchi is at thetablet.org. Search for the words Tokyo Archbishop. There are major worries tonight that the Bahamas are about to be slammed once again by a severe storm. The bad weather is packing high winds and torrential rains. A tropical storm warning predicts the system will impact the same areas devastated by Hurricane Durian, starting tonight and lasting through tomorrow. The new alert comes nearly 2 weeks after Hurricane Durian first stormed shore. The death toll in the Bahamas stands at 50, but about 1,300 people are still missing. Paula Newton is in Nassau and reports on the devastation up close.
Its ferocity was so vicious, survivors describe a storm that seemed to want to wipe them out.
Words can't describe it. I don't wish it on nobody.
Still stunned at their own survival, the aftermath has been crippling. Nearly 1 in 5 Bahamians are now homeless, more than 2,100 are in shelters, and at least hundreds more are taken in by family, friends, even strangers.
The food is gone.
The price tag already at a staggering $8 billion and counting. And while the winds have calmed, the sense of urgency hasn't. The need to feed, shelter, and clothe so many for months, maybe years, while trying to cope with finding and identifying the hundreds still missing. And many who survived are struggling with traumatic experiences. During the storm, thousands scrambled from room to room, house to house, buildings crumbling or flooding around them with alarming speed.
In the same boat here, it was just as high as the roof. It started to come onto the roof with me as I was holding on for dear life.
Hurricane Durian was stronger than predicted. It lasted longer than predicted. It lingered and lashed out with gusts that resembled thousands of terrifying tornadoes as the storm ground to a halt, grinding across the islands.
Sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden the roof it just came off.
Hundreds lost track of not just belongings, but each other.
Okay.
Relief overwhelmed reunions.
You're okay.
Others, though, still days after the storm, were desperate for proof of life. This woman frantic to find her cousin.
I hope they find him. I hope so. You just have a son. You don't even know the baby face yet. I hope they find him. I hope so.
Others know exactly what happened to loved ones. They watch and wait the grim search for bodies, knowing some victims were swept out to sea. The evacuations are now nearly complete. On the minds of most, how do you even begin to rebuild?
We can't do it alone. We need help. Lots of help. Lots of help. It's going to be monetary help. It's going to be, you don't even know where to start.
Durian shattered lives here, but also expectations about how hurricanes behave and what survival looks like after they've passed.
Paula Newtown filing that report from Nassau in the Bahamas. Responding to the great need described in her story, the Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio, is asking for donations for the victims of Hurricane Durian. He is requesting that every parish in the diocese take up a voluntary collection this weekend, September 14th, or next weekend, September 21st. All donations collected will be sent to the Archdiocese of Nassau. If you'd like to make a donation directly to the diocese, you can make checks payable to the Compostela Fund and write Bahamas in the memo section. The mailing address for those checks is Compostela Fund, 310 Prospect Park West in Brooklyn, zip code 11215. The address is also listed on thetablet.org. There's a manhunt underway at this hour in Houston for a gunman who was part of a gang that shot a cop and tried to kill a priest.
This priest, as indicated, he was on his knees praying for his life when one of the suspects pulled the trigger twice. And again, for whatever miraculous reason, the firearm did not discharge.
The priest was beaten but not severely injured. The police officer who was shot is hospitalized in stable condition. One suspect was killed and 2 more were taken into custody. The 4th suspect is still on the run. The violence erupted about a mile away from the Democrat presidential debate in Houston. The 10 candidates sparred over health care, immigration, and foreign wars. Attacks on former Vice President Joe Biden highlighted a divide among the contenders over the legacy of President Barack Obama. Biden defended his former boss, while Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders complained Obama's policies didn't go far enough, especially on health care for all. The next Democratic debate is scheduled for October 15th in Ohio. Another hot topic during last night's debate, the trade war with China. Beijing says it will now lift some tariffs imposed on the U.S., including those put in place on soybeans and pork. The move follows the president's decision to postpone a planned tariff hike on Chinese imports.
In honor of President Xi, we gave them a 2-week reprieve.
President Trump with a partial peace offering towards China.
So we'll be doing the tariffs on October 15th instead of October 5th or 1st.
The postponement of the tariff increase to 30% on $250 billion worth of goods was originally set to begin on China's 70th anniversary.
This was done as a goodwill gesture to the Chinese.
The Trump administration's announcement also comes on the heels of Beijing waiving import tariffs on some U.S. items. So could this be the beginning of the end of the trade war between the U.S. and China?
To quote a Buffalo Springfield song, there's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear.
U.S. and Chinese officials are expected to resume trade talks sometime next month in Washington, but a date has yet to be set. Some analysts say this standoff is hitting both countries in the wallet. Chinese trade data shows soft global demand is affecting its economy. And this summer, U.S. manufacturing fell for the first time in 3 years.
I think both the U.S. and China are quickly realizing that this is a painful battle. No one is winning. It's a matter of who loses less.
Global stocks, for the most part, have been rising since the U.S. and China have offered these olive branches to each other. A big change is scheduled for the holy city of Jerusalem. Israeli authorities are okaying the building of an overhead cable car system. The first phase would go to the Western Wall, the most sacred site in the Jewish world. Eventually, a fleet of cable cars would crisscross Jerusalem. News of the project comes days after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he'd annex a large part of the West Bank if re-elected next week. There's a lot more news headed your way. A big development in the college cheating scandal. A prison sentence has been handed down. A teen speaks out to warn others about the dangerous consequences of vaping. And in just moments, Bishop DiMarzio will be here with a provocative take on the links between immigration and Labor Day in America. A major update tonight in the college cheating scandal. A judge is sending a celebrity parent to jail. Kelly Smoot reports the latest.
In a Boston courtroom Friday, actress Felicity Huffman was sentenced to 14 days in prison. She was also sentenced to serve 1 year of probation, perform 250 hours of community service, and pay a $30,000 fine. In a statement, Huffman said, quote, "I accept the court's decision today without reservation. I have always been prepared to accept whatever punishment Judge Talwani imposed. I broke the law. I have admitted that, and I pleaded guilty to this crime. There are no excuses or justifications for my actions." Huffman pleaded guilty in May to conspiracy to commit mail fraud and honest services mail fraud. The former Desperate Housewives star admitted that she paid $15,000 for a proctor to boost her oldest daughter's SAT scores. More than 50 people, including parents, coaches, and test administrators, were charged in Operation Varsity Blues, the largest college admissions cheating scheme ever prosecuted, according to the Department of Justice.
We have charged 3 people who organized these scams, 2 SAT or ACT exam administrators, 1 exam proctor, 1 college administrator, 9 coaches at elite schools, and 33 parents who paid enormous sums to guarantee their children's admission to certain schools through the use of bribes and fake academic and athletic credentials.
Huffman is the first parent to be sentenced in the college admissions scandal. She is scheduled to report to prison on October 25th. Kelly Smoot, Currents News.
The e-cigarette crisis is a concern to many parents, and that holds true in the White House. The President and First Lady Melania are warning their teen son Barron about the dangers of vaping.
We haven't told him anything except don't vape. Don't vape. We don't like vaping.
The administration is moving to ban the sale of flavored e-cigs, which companies have been accused of marketing to children. 6 people have died and hundreds are ill in cases that are linked to vaping. The latest teen to fall victim to e-cigarettes is speaking out tonight. She thinks vaping helped land her in the hospital. As Mackenzie Nelson reports, doctors say her lungs look like someone with emphysema.
It's one of the scariest feelings. I felt like I was dying, I really did.
Catherine DeLoya never thought she'd be here, laying in a hospital bed at 17.
I've got chronic lung disease, plus the asthma.
At 15, she started smoking. Trying to quit, DeLoya switched to vaping.
I noticed that my asthma was getting a little worse after I switched to the vape and vaping more often. I was vaping more often than I was smoking cigarettes.
Deloya says she was vaping one pod every 2 to 3 weeks. Then she'd have someone of age get her a new one.
A whole pod would probably be comparison to maybe 4 packs of cigarettes.
In the hospital, she had several tests done. Doctors said Deloya's lungs looked nothing like a healthy 17-year-old should.
They said that my lungs looked decades older than they should have been, compared to, like, you know, a woman in her probably 40s with COPD. That's what they pretty much told me.
When she got home from the hospital on Sunday, Deloya threw away her e-cigarettes and shared her story on social media, hoping others would do the same.
And I've already got a few people to stop smoking their Juuls and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, I'm glad I'm making a difference in some people.
That was Mackenzie Nelson reporting. Deloya says she is all for the possible ban on flavored vaping products the Trump administration is proposing. She believes it could help some teens. The return of kids to their classrooms is linked to Labor Day. Tonight, Bishop DiMarzio is tying the holiday to a hot-button issue, immigration. He discusses his provocative ideas with Ed Wilkinson. Ed?
Thank you, and Bishop DiMarzio is here today. We're going to talk about his Labor Day column, which he wrote a couple of weeks ago, Bishop. He turned it more into an immigration column because you talked about a lot of the jobs that immigrants take when they come to the country here, the labor that they do, so necessary. What kind of jobs were you talking about?
Well, to say jobs nobody else wants is maybe an exaggeration, but they are entry-level jobs. This is what our country's been built on. There's always an entry-level job. Ever see the program on TV, Dirty Jobs?
Yes.
And this guy goes around doing little things. How would you ever do that? I mean, when I was in high school, I'd have one of those dirty jobs. I used to crawl into the tanker trucks when they came in from the dairy and clean them. Oh, you know, who wants to do that?
Right,
well, I couldn't get in one now. It's a small hole. But there are jobs like that are entry-level jobs. And again, they don't pay as much as everything. I would love to see this country, if everybody had a $15 an hour pay, they might be able to live without having 2 jobs or having husband and wife work, but that's not the case. Mm-hmm. Our economy is built on entry-level labor. There's a lot of that. Maybe someday these robots are going to take over, but not yet. It hasn't happened. You know, even in the farms, machines do a lot of the work, but still you need labor. So that's where the immigrants fit in usually. The newcomers always take, now some people have more skills and they get a higher level job, but for the most part, immigrants have always filled the entry level jobs in our country, moved up into the ranks, got education, learned English, sometimes more, but their children are the ones that integrate more quickly.
Recently down in Mississippi, there was a raid on a chicken processing plant, you know, so a lot of these people are at risk when they take these jobs, and they rounded up, I think 600 and, you know, took people out who they felt were illegal. Are we going after the right people? Should we be going after the employers or the employees?
Well, the employers have some responsibility too, although today they're supposed to get a Social Security number. Hopefully they do that. Sometimes it's a false number, sometimes it's not their own number. So it's a very difficult thing, and now they have what they call e-verify, that they can put it into a computer system and get back, is this a real number or not? Does it belong to this person? But that's nice if we're going to legalize everybody and let whoever is working stay here and then clean up the labor market. But that's not the case. You're just trying to get people out who are doing jobs. And out of those 600 people they rounded up, only 300 really were undocumented. So they inconvenienced 600 people because 300 didn't have proper documentation. Sometimes they're in line waiting for things to happen or whatever it is, it's different. But tell me, who's going to kill our chickens now? Who wants to work in a refrigerator for 10 to 12 hours a day? You want your children to do that? I don't think so. That's an entry-level job that immigrants are willing to sacrifice and do because they don't have much choice. But everybody else in this country wants a better job.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. But do they fit in? I don't want to take advantage of immigrants, but they do fit into the labor market in a place. They're willing to do work that most people would not want to do.
The administration is proposing that immigrants who come here and go on public assistance not be eligible for citizenship later on. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair at all, because it's not public assistance, it's any kind of safety net that we have. We have a social safety net in our country because we know we have entry-level jobs. People can't make it. People have disruptions. They're going on unemployment. They have an accident on the job. They don't get enough money to live. So there's food stamps, which in the beginning was basically giving surplus food out. Now it's changed. They can buy anything they need. It's in agriculture. It's in the agricultural budget, the food stamp program, and other things. Now, AFDC, which is aid to dependent children and families, they're already ineligible. Now they're trying to make people who are legally here ineligible for any kind of social benefit. That's way beyond what the law says.
Bishop, thanks. You always have an interesting insight, especially on immigration. Right now, going back to the news desk.
Thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. Today, America's bishops pushed back hard against the Trump administration's plan to cut down on refugees allowed into the country. Reportedly, the White House will slash the number of people provided protection in the U.S. to fewer than 30,000 a year. In a new statement, the bishops are saying further reductions in the number of refugees allowed to seek freedom in the United States would be wholly counter to our values as a nation of immigrants. America welcomes refugees. That is who we are. That is what we do. Still to come on Currents News. As the nation marks a horrific tragedy, one family is celebrating a miracle. This newborn baby girl is sending a message of hope on the darkest day in American history. Plus, a super centenarian. The oldest living World War II vet celebrates a milestone birthday, 110 years young. And the Tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all the joyous sacraments. For more details and submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. We'll be right back. The nation remembered one of the most horrific days in our history this week, the tragic day when terrorists attacked America. But for one family in Tennessee, the date now marks a miracle. Christina Brown was born on September 11th at 9:11 p.m., weighing 9 pounds and 11 ounces. Doctors were shocked by the numbers after the newborn baby girl was delivered via C-section. Mom and Dad say her birth sends a message of hope.
On that day, 9/11, you find triumph, you find a piece of joy from a day that's so drastic and still hurt.
Christina is currently in the neonatal ICU with some minor lung problems, but she should be home in a few days. Another fascinating fact about her young story, Christina's father works in the ER as part of a disaster response team. Finally tonight, America honored the oldest member of the greatest generation. Lawrence Brooks turned 110 this past Tuesday, the oldest known World War II veteran alive today. At the nation's World War II Museum in New Orleans, Brooks spoke about his time with the predominantly African-American 91st Engineer Battalion. The American hero was joined by families and other veterans during the occasion, and he was also serenaded by the museum's vocal trio, the Victory Bells. We'd like to wish Lawrence a happy birthday and thank you, sir, for your service. That's Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.